Hello again. Welcome to the podcast. Everything is traumatic. This episode, we're going to be talking about symptoms of depression and anxiety. So, Jeff made a Facebook post recently. Let's see. I want to pull that up and said, "Those of you who have experienced anxiety and or depression, how does it manifest itself in you?" I noticed he didn't put a question mark at the end of that post, but whatever. A lot of people just like kind of opened up, and it was really beautiful because like a lot of people just like were very open. Like a lot of people took it like seriously, so it was nice. So we're touching base on that, and from there it kind of goes a little tangenty, but it all kind of comes into experiencing symptoms of anxiety and depression. So sit back, relax, get into your safe spaces, and enjoy episode number 52 of Everything is Traumatic.
Hi, I'm Jeff, and I'm a therapist.
And I'm Tyler, and I'm a patient.
We're going to talk about trauma, healing, and everything. Everything is traumatic.
I really liked your pitch of like, you did that Facebook post.
Yeah,
and
it had a lot of response.
And it has a good amount of response. I actually pulled it up here just to, I don't know, because I don't want to like, I'm not going to like dox people and like read who's saying what, but like,
I wanted it is posted on Facebook for anybody that knows me to read. And I don't want to like name names or anything, but I thought it was fascinating the difference. So the question was, when you experience depression or anxiety, how does it manifest in you? And one of the reasons is because I experienced those things, and it was to see if anybody's experience was similar to mine. And it sounded like a lot of people's experience was very similar to mine, which is sort of I don't want anybody else to experience depression and anxiety, but it was nice to know that, okay, people experience this, and many of the ways they experience it is similar to the way I experience it. So it makes me feel like I'm not crazy.
Right.
I'm just experiencing depression and anxiety, and that this is how people seem to experience it. So a lot of people wrote very, very thoughtful responses, and there were actually some responses further on where people talked about ways that they dealt with their anxiety. And so I thought that was neat that it had sort of taken a turn so this is the way I feel, but this is some things I do when I feel that way, which was sort of a nice progression of the post that was organic.
What I'll really
and then later on, I posted how I feel when I'm depressed. So I wanted people to know I'm not just asking, that I'm also expressing my feelings too.
Yeah, it's not you're not trying to exploit these people, which I don't know how you. I mean, I guess you're like asking everyone to be very vulnerable here on this, but you're not. It's not like you're taking notes like, all right, I know how to fuck with this person again. I know.
Exactly.
I know how to harm this person now. I thought it was a really beautiful thing, just because it's like. I'm glad everyone is being open, and I'm glad everyone is just like, it's wearing these thoughts and feelings and these symptoms of anxiety and depression like just right there on the fucking sleeve and chest. And it also, like, I don't know if this is gonna sound twisted or weird, but for me it also, like, one of the things that does unite us, it seems, at least in my opinion, is suffering. We all experience it. Like, I guess you can take a less cynical step back and just be like, emotions in general, or just the human experience in general is everything that like we are experiencing, and we are all experiencing it simultaneously, and we all have a common ground with that. Because a lot of these symptoms are the same. A lot of these, like the way these things manifest, are the same for a lot of people.
And I think suffering is part of life, but it also helps build empathy. And when you deal with even harder core criminals, if you can develop empathy, then there seems to be some healing. I may
Mm-hmm.
have mentioned this, but I love cats. But anyway, so there is a program in some prison system, American prison system, where if you are behaving and you've earned the right, you can adopt a cat. And it's they're in the prison, so they're taking shelter cats that needed to be adopted. If you are well behaved and you are not a risk to an animal, you can develop a cat. And it's become this thing where these hardcore criminals are loving and nurturing these cats. And you can see this beautiful sort of bond where the cats needed the prisoners needed the cats. And so I think if we're if we understand suffering and we understand other people's suffering, then we can empathize because we're like, oh, I felt that way. And so empathy really does build, I think, healing. And so everybody needs empathy and everybody needs to be able to learn empathy. And so I just thought it was sweet because you've got these guys just playing around with cats and they all want cats. It's like, so they're behaving so they can get cats. And it's closely monitored so the cats are not in danger. But it's just crazy because these cats are roaming around in the prison cells, you know.
Mm-hmm. But I mean, that's a good thing. I think like we we have such a tendency to just like want to when someone does something bad. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm not justifying horrible actions of what people do, but someone does this really fucked up thing, and it's very easy to dehumanize them. I feel like they deserve to fucking they deserve to fucking get get to pet a cat. Why not?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and I think probably if they did research with it, which I bet they probably do, is that would improve the behavior of the prisoner and the whatever employment the idea of just sitting in a cell with it having nothing to do, rotting away versus you have a purpose and you have something to nurture. Other countries' prisons, especially some of the like Finland and Sweden and those places, their prison system is set up much more as a we're going to punish you, we're going to keep you away from others, but we're also going to treat you with respect, and you're going to be able to get job skills, and you're going to be able to live in a place that is decent, and we're going to have nice things, and we're going to make
Mm.
it a healing experience because we know you're going to get out, and we want you to be better.
Well,
And the American prison system is very punitive, and it's like let's make you suffer more. And I understand that viewpoint. But when you think of most of the people that go into the prison system are going to come out of the prison system, it's much better for society if people are redeemed in some way or given a skill or heal somewhat instead of just be punished
right.
because then they're going to come out and continue to do what they do because they don't have any healing or they don't gain any empathy.
And I think like what at least how I'm interpreted what you're saying is like the prison system in the U.S. is to is to cause the suffering that
Yes.
the guilty party has caused onto society, someone else, whatever. Versus
Yes.
like the European system of more like the goal is to rehabilitate.
Yes.
It's to actually like you did something wrong. It's kind of like a parent because that's for one how I've had it described to me when I have been put on probation when I was a teenager is that we are now your parent. So
Yeah.
America is a drunk dad who comes in screaming, and everyone else in Europe or wherever is doing more of a gentle parenting style where it is like about when people do something wrong, the only way to not repeat it or not do it again is to actually like instead of like shaming them, you like, hey, this is a concept you may not understand or like you don't
Yeah.
care. It
Let's teach.
doesn't.
Let's learn.
Let's learn from
Um,
this.
and I have not had a person that I loved that was harmed by somebody else. And so I understand the rage and the desire to have somebody suffer and be punished. So I'm not saying that's wrong. What I am saying is that in the prison system, people are depressed, people have mental health issues, there are all kinds of things. And so just like you and I have talked about healing through therapy and things like that and making our lives better, that would help people, whether they're getting out or not. If they are happier, if they are less mentally ill, if they get out, that's better. But if they're there, it's also better because of behavior and they're not going to hurt other prisoners and blah, 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 blah. So I think it's important to remember that a lot of people that commit crimes have learned certain maladaptive things, but a lot of them are mentally ill.
Mm.
And so trying to help them with that mental illness bodes well for when they get out. And there's some people that will never get out, and that's okay because they're dangerous, but have, they're still a human being. And I think when we diminish the life of any human being, we diminish the life of all. And when we don't have empathy towards people, even people that have done terrible things, we are taking away our humanity. And so
Mm.
I know that's a controversial thought. And again, I understand that there are some people that need to be locked up and some people that deserve whatever maybe they get, but they're still a human being. And so if we're going to look at the sanctity of life from pre-birth to death, everybody should experience that.
Mm.
Everybody's a person and everybody is worthy of some kind of empathy or caring. So,
And to bring it back to our subject here, because like
yeah,
we like to get on tangents. That's fine though, because they do kind of like, I don't know, you realize everything's connected.
yes,
And
yes.
so because everyone is deserving of having empathy and understanding, everyone also experiences anxiety or depression. Like even a prisoner experience this.
Yes.
The people you don't like experience depression and anxiety. And just like again with like how all these would like manifest with each other, like it's a lot of reoccurring themes of the body reacting
Mm,
and then the mind, like both of them kind of like, I don't know, feeding off of each other because
yeah.
of like these symptoms coming up.
So I mean, one of the things I talked about and one of the things I've been experiencing lately is just a feeling in the pit of my stomach of despair,
Mm.
which leads to this my mental sort of rumination over trying to. I think it's a lot of fears of unknown and things, and so and then it feeds, and then I feel like I don't want to do anything because my stomach hurts. I don't really have much energy. I'm trying to avoid certain media, but then I read a bunch of it because I'm trying to get that feeling to go away. I feel helpless and hopeless. I feel like everything's going to be bad. I feel like people don't like me, and it's that whole cycle of things. And so, blah, numbness, anxiety, agitation, my body. I've just got all this energy. Um, and then, like right now at this moment, I'm feeling very calm and peaceful. And so I can definitely tell the difference. Um, and so those were many of the themes that went through people's anxiety when they talked about their anxiety or their depression. Those were some of the things that they talked about is just feeling that lack of energy, that feeling of numbness, that feeling of despair, of
Mm.
hopelessness, of agitation. A lot of people will sleep a lot when they're feeling depressed because it's an escape, or they'll do all kinds of things. You try to keep your anxiety moving. So, and then it's like during a day, it might be half the day one way and half the day the other. And then it's almost like a fog for me. Sometimes it's there for 6 or 7 hours and then it slowly like dissipates for some reason and then it's gone for a little while.
Mm-hmm.
And then maybe it comes back. But I mean, that's sort of how I experience depression and anxiety. Um, and also, I think my body hurts, or, besides my stomach, I get headaches, I clench my teeth, I don't sleep well, things like that. So there were a lot of those themes going throughout different people's descriptions of depression and anxiety. Um, and so, again, one of the things we try to do here on the podcast is talk about ourselves and what we feel. And I think it's very valuable to me to hear other people feel things not exactly like I feel them, but similarly. And that makes me feel like, okay, I'm not alone.
Yeah, and that's one of the, like, because especially because I've been going through just through stuff this week with car problems, and how that how that kind of makes me feel anxiety and depression. A lot of these things, like, all this happened. Not all of it. I can't say all of that because some of these are really intense. But just a lot of, like, feeling like not able to, like, kind of think coherently.
Mm,
I feel very, like, defective because I don't feel like a real masculine person because I don't know anything about cars. I do feel a lot of IBS, nervous poops. I got a lot of nervous night poops going on there, and,
mm,
like, it felt very hard to get to sleep. It felt very hard
yeah.
to fucking a lot of negative self talk, and but, like, this one was different. A lot of the times, like, they're a lot more intense when something like car problems happens to me. But I was able to feel pretty grounded, which was a really huge step. And, like, I feel for a lot of people on this post because I'm right there with you. I
Mm.
understand. I hate it. I it sucks. But I, at least we're all feeling it together. We're, like, no one's left out.
Yeah. And I mean, so you and I, we text through the week, I'll send you silly pictures or whatever, but sometimes it's just grounding for me where I'll say I'm having a little bit of a bad day. And you'll say, "Oh, what's going on, man?" And then we'll talk a little bit, and vice versa. And it's just sort of, to me, it's a little bit grounding to feel like, okay, I've said it to somebody else. They understand it. They're interested in me. So it's like, it feels like, okay, again, I'm not in this alone. The other person may not be feeling that, but it's just nice sometimes to just be like, "Hey, man, how are you? I'm having a bad day." And then the other person can say, "Well, I'm sorry, man." I mean, it sounds so simple, but it's just that connection, because I think it gets us out of our head a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And then it also maybe reminds us, like, okay, so maybe everything's not as bad as I think, or maybe it is, but at least somebody else is there to talk to about it.
Yeah, and this might be just the school of thought of misery loves company, but when everyone is miserable, then
Yeah,
yeah, of
yeah,
course, misery loves company. And I don't know.
right.
I don't know. Fucking 8 billion people in the fucking world. Like, not, maybe not everyone's miserable, but I think
Yeah.
8 billion people feel depression and anxiety. And
Yeah, everybody has experienced, every person has experienced this in some way. And again, I think that's what we created this podcast for, and what, sometimes when we do things on Facebook, we ask questions. It's about that sense of community. Like in group therapy, one of the things that people say is the best part about it is that they realize they're not alone. So it's like an AA thing. You get everybody together, and then somebody's like, "Oh man, I did something really terrible. I sold my kids, uh, trophy so I could get some money for drugs." And then, like, somebody else is like, "You did that. I did something worse." And it's like this whole thing of like, okay, these people understand me. I'm not the only person in the world that has felt this way or done something or whatever. And then
mhm.
that's part of that healing. I think it's called universality in
Oh,
counseling
interesting.
lingo, where basically it's like, okay, so I'm not alone. And that's what I think that post was like, is, okay, we're all talking about different ways we feel. And I don't know how other people experience that, I'm hoping that they experience in a way of like, okay, so Jeff's a counselor and he feels this way. And a lot of people responded, a lot of really wonderful people in the arts, a lot of people that are just good people. Some people I don't know that well, but everybody was, it seemed to really resound with like, oh, okay, we've experienced this. Let's talk.
Yeah, that's what I really like. Like you opened up the conversation, and it, I don't know, people, like, when you open up the conversation, people are more than willing to talk, and like that's a good thing and a bad thing, because I mean, we got everyone has some really bad opinions, no matter what. Because not
Yeah,
everyone's an
and
expert on everything, but like this doesn't need any expertise. This is just like raw feeling, like this is what I feel.
and I post a lot of really ridiculous, silly, serious stuff, and everybody took this very seriously, I think, and so it was just like, that's the other thing is like sometimes people are like, "What is Jeff talking about?" But I'm just reading through some of them again, and I'm seeing so many things. I'm not going to point out anything like IBS, stomach and knots, IBS, agoraphobia, um, stomach issues, a lot of that,
Mm.
panic attacks, IBS,
Disinterest in
racing thoughts.
activities, yeah, racing thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like time after time. And it's like, wow, this sounds like me.
Yeah, this sounds
And so,
exactly like what I do.
so, and I think that's part of what therapy is about. So therapy is not the group process, but I think one of the scariest things about going to see a therapist is they're going to think I'm crazy.
Mm.
That's what a lot of people will do. And many times I'll just say that, you're not crazy. This is anxiety and depression. That's what this is. And it's like a relief sometimes where you tell them your stuff, your deep dark secrets, and they go, you know what? That's okay. We'll work on that. They
Yeah.
don't run away. They don't like, oh Lord, I can't see you anymore. I feel like
Mm.
that's one of the powers of therapy is
Yeah.
just
I mean, can you imagine a therapist being like, "Oh yeah, this guy is way too much for me."
whoops,
Whoops.
sorry, that one's too far.
That was a little,
We're gonna
yeah.
have to say no on this one.
This the therapist. This client's giving me some major ick. I don't think I can see him.
And sometimes so this is we're talking optimal therapist here. Sometimes a therapist will say, okay, so I've heard your issues and I'm not an expert on eating disorders. So I don't mind seeing you, but I might want to refer you to somebody that is a specialist there because they could help you more. So
Yeah.
that's not a rejection. That's just simply saying, hey, they might be able to help you better than I can.
Mm.
Um, but a good therapist would never say to you, I know you give me the heebie-jeebies, unless you are like taking your pants off in therapy or something. That's different. But if you're just talking about things you've experienced or felt, for example, like I read on Reddit some of the therapy stuff, and like clients will say, like, is it okay to tell my therapist about sexual thoughts I have in my life? Is it okay to talk about my sex life? Yes, it is. It's fine. That's part of our lives.
Mm.
Um, and so that is encouraged in therapy. Let's talk about those things that sometimes we don't talk about in society because they're not, quote, okay to talk about.
Mm.
And sexuality is one of those things.
It's true, and like, and yes, there is, like in any profession, like some therapists that are not right for certain clients. You know,
Yes.
but the you do need to find someone that you can talk about all of that to. And I mean, I've talked to my therapist about my sex life and like what, I mean, I haven't gone in and like talked about my kinks or anything, but but it's a part of us. And I mean, if you want to talk to your therapist about your kinks, I say do it. Tell them you like getting slapped. Tell them you like.
Well, that's the thing is so as a therapist, we're not to bring our judgment or morality in. for you. And what's so healing for so many people is, especially people that might be questioning their gender identity or whatever, or exploring or whatever, is to come in and be able to say, this is something that I've been thinking about. And the therapist is not going to just say, oh my God, that's not our job. And I don't even think that way. Somebody comes in and said, okay, if two people if you're with a partner and y'all like this, I'm not judging that. I don't care. That's that's with you. And my whole job is just to help you accept yourself. As long as nobody's in danger, as long as there's nothing, where anybody's being hurt going on, it's totally okay for you to have whatever goes on, and to feel like, oh, you don't need to be ashamed of that. You know,
Mm.
um, I think we just want acceptance. We want to understand. We feel that other people understand us, but also that we are accepted as we are. And that's what so many people come in with. They have not been accepted by their religion or their family or whatever. And they just, if they can get some kind of acceptance, it starts the process of like, okay, so maybe I can heal. Maybe I'm not that
Yeah.
bad.
Man, Jeff, I never thought about it like that. Like that's total like I agree with that cuz that's how I felt when I first started therapy. I didn't feel accepted by I guess everything. I've always felt kind of different, which I don't know. I have been I was not told that I was special all my life. I got told I was special when I was a kid, but then I was also in some special classes. So who really knows?
Special was a little bit confusing. What did special mean?
Yeah, special became a little derogatory,
Yeah.
and I didn't like that, or it put a lot of pressure. And I, fuck, I'm losing it. I lost it, Jeff. I'm so sorry.
Yeah. I mean, it just, yeah, we're all, and therapists too. We all want a place to belong. People want to, and that's why you like, even in like prisons, there's a gang system, there's a hierarchy. We all want, we all want to belong somewhere, and we all want to have some kind of tribe. And I feel like that's what, through our friends or whatever. And it's funny because like you and I, it's that we're an interesting like pair. We have different upbringings. We have different ways of looking at things, but we really click. And I think that's because we have these commonalities that connect us. And it's like the film and the mental health interest and the like just the creativeness and we love to do things that are creative. But it's an interesting kind of connection. But that's
Mm,
how I think we find people. We find people that we feel like belong to our tribe in many different ways. And that's a cool thing that I found in the film community, is that there's all kinds of different people. Um, and they would normally not click together except for this interest. And then it's like, oh, yeah, we have other things in common too. But the initial click is that, oh, we're on a film set. Let's
mm,
talk.
yeah. No, I agree. We're all kind of like, and I mean, it sucks that it is kind of like that way in a way, but like, actually, I think it's fine. I think it's fine to be excluded sometimes. There's nothing wrong with being excluded.
Yeah,
um,
yeah,
but we all are trying to like find our tribes, find our people, find the people that we know are good people or like align with
right.
what we want. Um,
And I think tribes can go bad. We are a tribal
we're,
society. I mean, we like to look at somewhere like Afghanistan and say they're very tribal. Well, we're very tribal. We have
mm,
our tribes.
mm,
Um, I want to be a part of tribes that are loving and caring and accepting
mm,
of other people. I don't want to be in a tribe where people are like, oh, we're not going to have you in our tribe because you blah blah blah.
mm,
There's some of that, but they can get very hateful in certain tribes. But in general, I think our tribes we're just trying to find ways of belonging.
mm,
And we want to find some group to belong to. And that's why certain tribes like a KKK or a hate group or whatever, those people are looking for belonging too. And they find belonging in that kind of setup. When if somebody might have been nicer to them or somebody might have help them out, they may not have felt like they had to go to that tribe. It's not our fault, but it is something to think about. If
Yeah,
they've been
because
accepted for who they were, you know, maybe they would not have felt like they had to go to that extreme
well, yeah,
and
when
become.
when people go to those kind of ideologies or those kind of like thoughts, beliefs, those I don't think are like a human gene in us that's designed to be racist, right? Like I feel like that's a learned
Yeah,
behavior of our environment, whatever environment we belong in. And so because no one like actually sat them down and was like, "Hey, did you know these are guys? These are just people. Did you know they're just people? Like, yeah, you can like them, but like them based on their character, not based on their outward appearance or their race. Like, that's not how
right.
you should judge a person. So, because no one in their environment set them down and told them that, or like tried to introduce that concept to see if they would be open to it, and maybe they did, and maybe they did reject it. But
Right.
the point being, like, those tribes are going to exist. Like, I don't know. Like, I would like to think that we can live in a world where we end racism, but people want their fucking tribes.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, like, there's help. I mean, I feel like, again, the exclusion of people, there's like the punk ideology. And I think the punk movement, while it can be sort of unseemly in certain ways, the punk movement was a way for people to find a space. And in general, there was not a dangerous thing, or the hippie movement or whatever. I don't know some more. I'm so old. I'm thinking of these old movements, but like, what are more recent movements? I guess like emo or, goths or whatever. I'm still in the old school thing, but they're all old. But those are groups that are not negative. I mean, there are punk was just like anti everything, It was anti establishment. I want to be who I want to be. The music was very different. It was like, we don't have to know our instruments. We don't have to do anything melodic. Anybody can be a punk band. There was this egalitarian kindness of it. You don't
Hmm.
have to be a musician. Let's just get up there and play. And so there was something sort of nice about that. I'm not sure what I'm babbling about, but I think it's again about belonging and
Well,
finding the
yeah,
way to
it's
belong.
yeah, finding our tribe and our community. I mean, I get what you're saying there, Jeff. Like with the punk, with like punk, because punk is one of my favorite music genres. Like it very much
Yeah.
is like being your authentic self, and like that's what we all really want to be. Like we want to be our authentic, true to ourselves, like fulfill our desires, follow our bliss, and do what makes us happy. It becomes a problem when your idea of happiness is, hey, I want to disrupt this group of people or I want to fuck with this
Yes.
tribe. That's going to make me
Right.
my authentic self. Like that, I think is not I don't think that's a very good deal. I don't think
Right.
that's very nice. So, it's not a
Yeah,
very
and I
nice
think,
thing.
religion can be very tribal. And so that's like where I think of like I grew up in a faith tradition and I have absolutely no problem with faith traditions. I feel like sometimes some extreme faith traditions want to make everybody like them or they want to set rules for everybody. And it's just like, yeah, that's where problems come up. It's not about you having a belief system. It's about where you want to require your belief system for everybody to follow that, and that's in any kind of thing.
Hmm.
It doesn't have to be a religious system. That's when we get problems when everybody's like, "I want you to have to believe like me. I'm
Yes.
right, and so you need to do this." And punk
This
was so
mhm.
different from that. Punk was just like, "Fuck everything," right?
Well, the
We're
punk
just
was like there is no truth.
yeah,
The only truth is what's presently in front of you.
right, But they
Inst-
had an ethos. I mean, there was a punk ethos.
yes, very
You know?
anti-establishment, very
Yeah,
anti-commercial. Well, you could say
yeah.
anti-commercial. I
Like a
don't
band
know.
like the Melvins, who I would consider punky. They had a very they have a very an ethos, and they
Hmm.
still are doing that. They could have definitely been more financially successful, but there was an ethos there, or a thing basically where no, we're this is what a punk band is,
Hmm.
and so that's sort of exciting.
I mean, yeah, it is. I mean, I always considered the Melvins more like doom metal, but they got some.
Oh yeah, I
They
mean,
dabble a lot.
but
I
but with
get
like
the spirit. Yeah,
a punk ethos, though. I mean,
yeah.
they're definitely not punk, but yeah, their ethos is sort of like I'm going to do things that I believe are
Hmm.
okay.
Yeah,
It's not like
it's a
I'm
very
ready.
DIY. There we go. It's very
Right,
do it
right. Like
yourself.
there were some bands are like, I'll do whatever I need to make a lot of money. And so, what do you need me to do? Should I do hair metal? Well, you tell me. And their thing is like, this is who we are. I mean, they put out a 4 album covers acoustic cover set. I mean, that's something that's like, who needs 4 albums of covers? And they're like, we don't really care. This is what we want to do.
Yeah, exactly. And like that's what that's what we want to do. And like when we experience these thoughts and feelings of anxiety and depression, and these symptoms manifest, and we feel them really heavily, and they sit right there on our chest, and they bowel up in our stomach, and they give us the bubble gut, and they make us feel anxious, and then next thing you know, your head is saying that you're a piece of shit. It's good for me to take solace and find comfort in the fact that everyone else experienced this too. We are not in this alone. And if we could put our guard down a little more every day, we can really be there for each other and remind each other that, like, it's cold. It's a very cold world, but we got that body heat that can make it warmer. God damn it. That's terrible.
That was a really nice wrap up of my crazy off the cuff sort of rambling, bringing it home with this idea of it's about it's about feeling like we are part of something and that we are not alone. Isolation and a feeling of alone is one of the biggest things that I think people that especially struggle with depression feel.
Hmm.
And I think when they realize there is another person for them to talk to, however they do that connection, that really helps. That's what
Yes.
we are. We want to know we're not alone.
And I mean, I get it too that a lot of us are human connectors, so to speak, have like kind of some burnt, frizzled ends on them because we've all been burnt. We've all let people into our lives to be screwed over. We've all been hurt by people close to us, and we've all experienced betrayal. But you gotta emotionally solder that shit up because like the connection's where it's at, baby. We we're all little connectors that need to connect.
And that's the thing. You it is okay to reach out to others and say, I feel a little off. And then normally people will say, I felt a little off too. But
Hmm.
I think that's the scary thing. We're so scared of rejection that sometimes um, we're afraid to say that we're feeling a certain way.
Yeah, that's
And that's
actually
when we isolate.
that's
Nobody will understand me. That's what we think.
yeah, and that's what man, that's what I wanted to bring up earlier, and I think I forgot. But when you mentioned that, like when you feel down and you'll text me, and like when I feel down, I'll reach out to you. It's like we both kind of like nine times out of ten are like, oh hey, I'm actually been going through that same thing too. Like I know exactly how you feel because I currently feel that. So it is like nice. It's nice when you can reach out to a friend or family member that you trust, anyone to just kind of say, hey, I don't feel good. I feel kind of anxious. I feel like my thoughts are racing. I feel like, and I find myself doing that more with Sandy. And like, there's nothing wrong with just being like, hey, I feel like yesterday, I was like, hey, I feel like I can't stop thinking about my car. I can't stop thinking about these bad things about like what could happen and what the expense is and yada, yada, yada. I need to do something that's not just scrolling on my phone. And she was like, well, let's do some collaging. And that's what we did. And
Nice.
I got to send you a picture of what I made. It's quite
That's
the
awesome.
scene. So,
I think that's it. And so like there is the moment to feel when we feel bad, it's okay to soak in it a little bit. It's okay to experience it. But when we start feeling really, really desperate or feel that's when we reach out to a partner, to a friend, whatever. That's so important that we do that.
hmm I agree. I do. And Jeff, I think this has kind of reached its logical conclusion here. I don't know. Do you?
I think you're right. I feel like we're really, I mean, I feel, I don't know about you, and maybe, we're just, I don't know. I feel like we've really been hitting it these last 4 or 5 episodes. We've really been sort of really doing what we had originally set up to talk about, really therapeutic things, how we all have some commonalities and the need for community.
Yeah.
And even though it might be really small, I'm hoping we're creating some sort of community here.
Yeah. I mean, I hope so too. And I don't think we have any emails, and that's okay, cause
Yeah,
I'm fine with that. I was gonna check while we're here.
sure.
Um, um, see if anyone wrote us at everythingistraumatic at gmail.com. No, I think Vin kind of got sick of us. That's okay.
Yeah. And maybe we could do maybe some more of these little, they're not surveys really, but maybe even through the just mention to people again, hey, if you want to email us, that'd be great. Because I don't know if people are connecting totally. So we keep working on it though. But I think people are listening.
Yeah, I think people are listening, and that's all I can really ask for. So thank you again for listening. This has been all of us here at Everything Is Traumatic. I'm Tyler,
Jeff.
and please take care of yourself. And I don't know, I pulled up this quote 'cause I feel like it fits with the episode, so I'm just gonna leave you guys off with it. To live is to suffer. To survive is to find some meaning in the suffering. Friedrich Nietzsche.
Very nice.
Maybe that's not. I don't know. Is that too edgy to end off with a Nietzsche
No, I like it.
Nietzsche quote? I don't know. Thanks for listening. Bye.